it can be really helpful to start to incorporate coping skills to help you balance your emotional world. So sometimes what happens for people is this is their kind of fun or self care. You can also think of self care as just fun. It doesn't have to be so technical. And then this is their stress. And for many people, as their stress increases, for some reason they reduce their self care and their fun. And what can be most beneficial is as this increases, your self care is actually slightly higher. So you start to really prioritize the use of self care in these stressful periods or these stressful events. Now, there's different kinds of things you can do for self care and coping. And so in this video, I'll go over a few to give you some ideas, but I really encourage you, if this vibes with you, to start to Google coping skills lists. There's so many out there. They're great, and they give you all these options. Because if you're not oriented towards self-care and coping, even though you might agree with this, your mind has no idea where to start, and it has no idea what will work. So one area is calming skills. So when we get stressed, we need some ways to calm. Many things that help with calming are with our breath. So you can do things like box breathing, where you breathe in for 4 seconds, you hold for 4 seconds, you exhale for 4 seconds, you pause or hold for 4 seconds, you breathe in again for 4 seconds. You can also do things like a pranayama breath work, where you breathe in through one side of your nose, you cover it, you cover this, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in. Now, what this does is our energetic or more subtle body has a lot of energy moving, and sometimes that energy gets kind of blocked or stuck. And so these breathing techniques help to kind of move that energy. That's what yoga actually is it's basically a user's manual for your energetic body and how to move the energy winds so that wherever it's stuck or knotted up, it releases. And that's why you might feel so good after yoga, because that's what you're doing. Exercise does that to some degree too, but yoga is a little bit more focused. So you can use yoga for calming. Other things that you can do is move into things that feel good. Take a hot shower. If it helps, you might take a cold shower. After the initial cold, there's sometimes some relaxation, and at least when the cold hits you, your mind stops thinking for a little bit. You can do things like wear comfortable clothes, getting into like things like textures that help you, using a weighted blanket. It's great for calming. It's basically like how we bundle up babies. You just put it on you and it just kind of holds you down. It's quite nice. You can do things like meditation. The list can go on and on. Exercise. The next step is looking at processing. So how do we process what's happening? Because for most people that struggle with kind of overactive minds or a lot of stress, is they're not processing how they're feeling. They're processing their fears of the future or the way this reminds them of the past. So we get into the present moment. That's what processing helps us do. And we utilize things like art and creativity to process. Because for most people that really struggle with stress, the challenge is that they're too focused on the part of their mind that goes through logic and reasoning, and they're not focused enough on the part that's very creative and feels and experiences the present. So however you are, you want to do the opposite. So if you feel a lot and you don't think and you get really overwhelmed by your feelings, then you might want to do some logic, really looking at how can I reframe this, that kind of thing. If you tend to reframe and you know what's good for you, but you don't do it and you're so mad at yourself, you need to move into feelings. How do I feel right now? Am I sad? Am I mad? Am I glad? Or am I scared? Keep your feelings simple. Don't get a feelings chart, and because if you're not connected with your feelings, none of it will make sense, and then it becomes a logical thing. Am I sad? Am I mad? Am I glad? Am I scared? And you check in with yourself. One thing that I found really interesting when I first started doing that in my own healing journey is that initially I was always scared. Always. I was like, wow, I'm always scared. Like, no wonder the way I decide things, because I'm always scared. It's very helpful, to know how you feel. Most of the time what we do is we talk about what's the outside world and the things that are bothering us, instead of talking about, I feel sad, I feel mad. I feel scared. You don't even have to have a reason. You know, many times I'll feel things. I don't even know where they're coming from, but I'm feeling them. So how do I address that? Now, other things that you can do can also be more physical ways of processing. So you can do things like scream into a pillow, punch a safe surface. Don't punch something where it breaks your hand or destroys things. You can do things like hard exercises, getting that energy out, giving yourself a break. So these are just some ideas to help you move into self-care. And one piece that becomes really helpful to incorporate, initially we just need to work with ourselves to get ourselves comforted and recognize that we can actually take care of ourselves, that we don't necessarily have to depend on all these external things, but also incorporating people you trust that are helpful. So like I often see people who are so upset with such and such in their life because every time they have a problem, they go to them and they say the same thing. So stop going to them. If they say the same thing every time, why are you going to them? Possibly it's because you can't accept where they are and you want them to change, but they've never changed. So why are you doing that? You're just beating a dead horse, right? So find the people you can go to. There's definitely people who'd be interested in how you feel, but you don't go to them because you like to be miserable. So you have to force yourself into the ways of healing, because our mind, if it's been really unhappy, it's just on a loop autopilot. It requires a certain level of consciousness to come to this present moment and work with this present moment, not spending so much time in the past or the present or whatever the case is. So I hope that that's helpful. And I think it's really important to understand that you can do this and you can take control of your inner world. It's up to you, not external things. Although it may feel like that right now, what you'll find if you practice these things is that you start to realize that within you is a certain stillness that doesn't get affected by the external world. And that's very powerful. That's where you step into your power, actually. So thank you.